It is 7 o'clock and we will officially get this meeting to order. Deb, would you kindly do roll call?
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Here.
and for the record, Counselor Hansi is present virtually tonight. Counselor Purser.
Here.
Counselor Parrish.
Here.
Counselor Downs. Counselor Miller.
Here.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to ask that everybody stand for a moment of silence to collect your thoughts, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nice. We have an agenda set forth. We have an agenda before us. Deb, do you have any changes to the agenda?
I do, Mr. Mayor. At the end of the agenda, there are 2 executive sessions. And we are requesting that the order of those be reversed so that the public-private partnership executive session go before the other one.
Okay. Thank you. We would also like to add an item D under proclamations. And it will be a special mic proclamation. So, any other changes?
No more changes, Mr. Mayor.
Nobody looks more surprised than Mike at this moment. So we have an amended agenda set forth. Motion to adopt.
I move to adopt the agenda as amended. Second.
We have a first and second. Please poll council.
Counselor Williams, Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Downs, Counselor Miller.
Yeah.
Motion passes 6-0.
Great, thank you. We have item A on this section is a proclamation, which thank you guys for letting me read this one. I do appreciate that. Proclaiming November 20 to 26, 2024 as the 7th annual Interfaith Awareness Week. Whereas the city of Fruita honors and respects all religious beliefs, cultures, creeds, races, and is recognized as an inclusive city, defined in the November 20th, 2018 original Inclusivity Proclamation, and seeks to learn from those who believe that equal spiritual opportunity and human rights belong to every citizen. And whereas various statistical sources calculate there are between 4,000 and 5,000 different religions in the world, and that the city of Fruita and Mesa County are home to a number of such different faiths paths, along with individuals who do not have a religious practice. And whereas freedom of religion or belief is recognized internationally as a human right, and observance like Interfaith Awareness Week seek to promote and support that right for all individuals. And whereas the Grand Valley Interfaith Network, GIVEN, has been networking together since 1977 and offers varied programs designed to bring diverse faith groups into dialogue to better practice peace, harmony, cooperation, and understanding among all people. And whereas the annual Thanksgiving Community Interfaith Service on November 26, which is the capstone of Interfaith Awareness Week, demonstrates the diverse religious perspectives are committed to learning and loving. And whereas the ongoing activities of harmony among diversity of faiths is a vital goal for all people throughout Fruita, North America, and the world. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council for the City of Fruita, on behalf of the citizens of Fruita, proclaim November 2026, 2024 to be Interfaith Awareness Week in the City of Fruita. Furthermore, the City of Fruita hereby intends to continue annually recognizing the importance of all beliefs in the community, and to consider, respect, and value the uniqueness and importance of religious diversity in our community. So I believe we have Carla Ryan here. Thank you. If you'd like to come up and say a few words. And then we'll have to get our picture taken.
Mayor, council members, on behalf of the Grand Valley Interfaith Network, given, I am honored to accept the City of Fruita's 2024 proclamation, recognizing Interfaith Awareness Week here in the Grand Valley starting tomorrow through the 26th. My name is Reverend Dr. Carla Ryan, a past president and longtime friend of Given. With this proclamation, the City of Fruita affirms its continuing commitment to honor the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, the freedom of religion or belief or no faith practices. It is important that we remain objective and curious about religions, their histories, and their evolutions from ancient times through current events. Like many people in the world, my personal religious evolution continues to unfold. I spent more than 60 years within the halls of organized religions, where I learned and now believe that there is a spiritual essence, a divine intelligence within and around me at all times. Today, I follow an independent spiritual path and continue to be a student of all religions. Being part of the Grand Valley Interfaith Network helps expand my awareness. Given reminds me that many religions share similar values, principles, and beliefs. When we look at the core teachings of the world's great religions, we're not that different. Given's members come together every month to share perspectives about our faiths and how we live the principles in our everyday lives. Our members work together to host community food drives, provide resource lists on our website, and offer other blessings to Grand Valley residents, often those most in need. We attend city council meetings to suggest ideas to help solve challenges. We learn at seminars and workshops, and by attending various services or events hosted by Given friends. We willingly adhere to a covenant of cooperation to do our business, and I provided copies to Deb as well. We do not attempt to convert each other, but to understand, not to intimidate or threaten, but to offer strength through compassion and peace. Not to hinder someone's religious or spiritual consciousness, but to encourage a desire to learn and grow and to be more of who we are. The theme for this year's Interfaith Awareness Week is focused on gathering and will be celebrated as we assemble at our Thanksgiving service next Tuesday night at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Grand Valley in Grand Junction. I'd like to close with a quote by Alice Waters, chef, food writer, and activist. This is the power of gathering. It inspires us delightfully to be more hopeful, more joyful, and more thoughtful. In a word, more alive. Thank you, Fruita, for continuing to acknowledge Interfaith Awareness Week and for your commitment and renewing support every year. Thank you for keeping this proclamation alive.
Thank you. Nobody gets a proclamation without a.
There already may be more than we can handle, frankly. The longer we wait, the worse our chances of success become.
Goes without saying, the better our chances.
All right, next we have a presentation from the Executive Director for the Museum of Western Colorado, Sheena Hayden. Come on up, and you've got a PowerPoint and awesome.
Share my screen really quickly. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for having me here this evening. I was really excited to come and share with you all of the fun things that Dinosaur Journey has done this year and some goals and plans for next year as well. So just to kind of reiterate our mission, the Museums of Western Colorado inspires and connects our community by championing the scientific and cultural heritage of the Colorado Plateau. And we are not only Dinosaur Journey, but Museum of the West, as well as Cross Orchards. But today we're going to focus on Dinosaur Journey. So I wanted to kind of start off by showing you kind of what our admissions looked like this year. Right now we are sitting at about 31,000 for the year, and you can kind of see what that breakdown. If you're a stats nerd like me, this is interesting information to kind of see how many adults, children, senior, how many members we had come out. Kind of goes into a nice little funnel there. While it looks like we have a small sensory night attendance, we've really been seeing an increase in people coming out and attending our sensory nights. We've seen about 100 and some odd people this year, and we're really hoping to see an increase next year. So we're going to start doing those on the weekend as well, so we can kind of widen our availability to a bigger audience. This year we had Dinos on the Rocks, which was the first time we've done this event. We had 63 attendees come in. Everyone had a blast. Did any of you in here go? Tom was there. It was a lot of fun. It was a really nice fundraiser for the museum, and a great fundraiser as well. So we will be doing this event again next year. It was a cocktail competition. So we had some local bars come out and compete with each other on creative cocktails and things like that. It was really a delicious event as well. Dino Day, that we do Dino Day every year. This year was a record-breaking year for us. We were really excited. We made over $10,000 in that one day, and we saw 950 people who came out and enjoyed dino-themed hands-on activities as well as snow cones. Next year, we plan to kind of increase a little bit. We're kind of bursting at the seams as it is, but we're going to take over a little more of the parking lot and add some more activities outside as well. This year, we saw 213 people on 33 dino dig excursions over in Rabbit Valley. We also hired a full-time lab manager to help us increase this program to the public and help us care for the collections and our lab space at Dinosaur Journey. I also wanted to point out our volunteers. We have a really steady, dedicated group of volunteers at Dinosaur Journey and at all the museums, but our Dinosaur Journey volunteers are really important because they are a big part of getting all of those fossils out of the ground and cleaned and on display. They also work with some of our kiddos. It's really amazing. Volunteerism is such an important part of our community. It helps bring everyone of all ages together, helps them grow, gives you a fulfilling life, and just really is an amazing way to interact with our neighbors. All right, fun stuff. Goals for next year. We're increasing the amount of dinosaur digs again. We added 12 for this year. We're adding a few more for this year, so we'll have a total of 46. We're increasing our K through 12 program offerings. Education is a big thing for me personally, so it's something that I was really looking forward to increasing across the board for the museums. We'll be increasing the amount of hands-on programming for K through 12, and that kind of leads into the Exploration for All Fund. We want to make sure that any school across the valley is able to attend a field trip for free. So we're working on raising money to put into that fund so that we can cover the cost of buses and attendance so that every school kid can come visit us and check out the dinosaurs. We're going to be updating and replacing labels in the galleries. We're starting to kind of assess that situation. We'll be working on that at the start of next year. We've got some updating to exhibits. We've been in talks with a couple of people who make animatronic dinosaurs. Fun conversations I get to have. And working on updating those exhibits and keeping them at the top of their game. And we're also going to be updating our HVAC system. We had GMMI over there today working on it as well. So just one more thing that I wanted to point out is we really want to make sure that we're removing barriers to visitation. Museum visits should be for everyone. They're safe places where everyone can come together and learn side by side, no matter who you are or what background you come from. So the Museums for All program is a national program, and our museums all participate in that. And that just means if you use SNAP benefits or anything like that, there is a no cost for you to come into the museum. So we'll be raising additional funding for that this year or next year as well, so that we can cover the cost of those visitations. We also offer other discounted admissions like senior citizens and military discounts as well. And that's it. You can look at this beautiful picture of these lovely little pumpkins in the dig pit. So, all right, that's what I've got for you. Thank you.
You ran away. Like, now it's gonna be really embarrassing if we don't actually have any questions for you. Yeah.
Let me stop sharing too.
Does anybody have any questions now that we've called you back from council?
I like that they do the snap thing that you guys are in on that. How is that get out? How does the word get out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we train our front desk staff. So when people come in, we ask if they qualify for any of our discounts, senior citizen, military student. Are you on SNAP or EBT? And if they say yes, we're like, you qualify for the Museums for All, which is free admission, and people are usually pleasantly surprised. We do have that information on our website. We hope that in 2025, with getting a little more funding under our belt for this program, that we can do a little bit wider of a spread of marketing for that, so that more people are able to take advantage of that.
Yeah, that's a great program.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. And like I said, it's nationwide. So there's lots of museums who participate in that program, and it's really important, and it's been very successful in every way.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Your presentation was great, super informative and very positive. Thank you so much. Yes, I love that you're doing that for all of the people, SNAP and the military and seniors, and trying to offer field trips for free. I'm curious what your thoughts are to raise the money to be able to cover those costs, and how can we help?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking me that. So right now we're working on our annual fund campaign, which is our end of year giving campaign, I guess. We'll be raising money for our field trip Exploration for All fund. So you'll probably be getting a really nice letter from me in the mail at some point very soon. Says what we will be doing. And so that money that we raise every year will kind of go into that fund, and our goal is $20,000. We feel like that'll definitely cover a year's worth of field trips for the students. As we grow and we start providing more programming and we start getting more volunteers and more educators, we'll want to grow that, because we expect it.
Fantastic, thank you.
I love to give, hello, I love to give updates to the council about the work that you're doing and the way that everything is growing. And I was wondering if you would be willing to tell the council and everybody about the CMU partnership that is growing between the museums and.
Yeah, we're working on it. It's
Okay.
we are working on a membership proposal for the students. Because all three museums are such great resources to the CMU students. We work with them a lot. We have tons of interns. A lot of the classes actually come to one or more of the museums to do different things. throughout the school year. And so we are proposing a membership program that is worked into the student fees at a discount so that every student has the ability to come to any of the museums anytime they want. They also get free access to any of our lecture series. Any programming that we do, the students will be able to come for free. But yeah, thanks for mentioning that. We're really excited about it. It's still in the works, but we're super excited. Yeah. Fingers crossed.
I say, keep up the good work.
Yeah, thank you.
This is all
Thank you
such
for all that you're
exciting
doing.
stuff. Like, I think you're infusing a lot of much needed energy. That is, I'm thrilled. I'm excited to see what's to come.
Yeah, I'm almost jealous I'm not the liaison to that one. And
Yeah. Yeah, note
We
to
got him
self.
There's still volunteer opportunities.
I walked right into that one, didn't
All right. Well, thank you very much.
So
All
much.
Thank you.
right. Our next on the agenda is a presentation by Rachel Peterson, Transportation Planner for the Mesa County Regional Transportation Planning Office on the Mesa County Safety Action Plan.
Good evening, members of council. Give me just a moment to share my screen here. Unfortunately, this is a more grim topic, so I'm glad we started on a good note there. Let's see. Is that okay? Okay, perfect. Hello, everybody. Rachel Peterson. I'm the transportation planner with the Regional Transportation Planning Office and project manager for the Mesa County Safety Action Plan, which looks at all of Mesa County, including Fruita, Grand Junction, Palisade, and kind of the rural areas of Mesa County there. This has been a project that we've been working on for 12 months. So we're really excited to bring forward what we have with you today and share kind of what we've learned and just the whole process that we've gone through. So looking at this higher level of Mesa County, we looked at data between 2016 and 2022, and there is a really high amount of crashes here in Mesa County. There's about 2,400 a year. We had 117 fatal crashes and 475 people who were seriously injured, which is kind of losing their quality of life with that injury. In 2022, it was a really poor year for us in Mesa County, and we surpassed the state average. It was 13.1 of deaths per capita, and the crash rate in that year for us was 17.6. So this is something that we find completely unacceptable. Nobody should lose their life. Nobody should lose their quality of life on our roadways. This is a heat map of all of the crashes in Mesa County. There's crashes that are on major roadways. You can think I-70 and then also local neighborhood roads. So there's everything in between with crashes. A lot of the crashes though are kind of concentrated in the Grand Valley floor, especially in the Grand Junction area. This is kind of zoomed in there. You can kind of see there on the left for me is the kind of intersection in Fruita at the I-70 interchange on exit 19. And we looked at the crashes kind of at the valley floor level and then the entirety of Mesa County and divided them into urban trends and rural trends because we are a very diverse county. So with urban crash trends, about 60% of those were at intersections. Impairment was a major factor with 23% of the urban fatal and serious injury crashes being due to impairment. Speeding was also a major factor with aggressive driving being very common. And then the urban areas accounted for 98% of pedestrian, bicycle, fatal and serious injury crashes. And 30% of those were under the age of 25. And then rural crash trends. So this is the area outside of Fruita, Grand Junction, Palisade. A lot of those were not so much on intersections, but a lot of them were on state roadways. Kind of, you can think people running off the road, hitting wild animals, that sort of thing. Impairment was a factor about the same amount in these rural areas, but speeding was double. And then with the fatal crashes, we saw a lot more motorcycle crashes in these rural areas. urban areas, it was about 22% of motorcycle fatalities were in the urban area. And then about 49% were in the rural area for serious injuries. And then wild animals, as you can imagine, are also in these rural areas of Mesa County. So since we're with you with the city of Fruita, I wanted to kind of drill into some of the areas where crashes are occurring here in Fruita. They're kind of all over the place, but kind of, as I said, around kind of the exit 19, I-70, kind of when you come into the city of Fruita there from that area, as well as 6 and 50. And then for the people which this plan really focuses on is killed and seriously injured. There were 5 fatalities between 2016 and 2022. I looked at the urban growth boundary since that's kind of a cleaner boundary than, you know, the Fruita city limits. And then there were around 20 people who were seriously injured on our roadways. So the solution for this effort is the Mesa County Safety Action Plan. So we drilled into that data and we received federal funding for a grant. And that was a $260,000 grant with local funding coming from the city of Fruita, Grand Junction, Palisade, and Mesa County, all coming together for the common purpose of safety. So this is something that we're doing here locally. This is happening all over the state of Colorado and all over the nation. So there's a lot of people who are investing time and effort, thankfully, into this safety initiative. And we really are focusing on reducing the number of deaths and serious injuries on our roadways. Crashes are going to happen. That's just inevitable, but we don't want anybody losing their life or getting seriously injured. So we did a lot of coordination with the safety action plan with entities that we had never worked with before. Our office is an office that primarily works with planning and engineering, but we had kind of broke outside of this, and law enforcement, hospitals, education, nonprofits were all interested in coming together for this common purpose of safety. We worked with John Vasey with the city of Fruita, Dana Brosig, our is here this evening, as well as Don Potter, our CDOT law enforcement liaison. So they have been a tremendous help with this effort. So just want to give them a shout out. And then we had also got community input throughout Mesa County. And this kind of first phase was in the spring, and that was just hearing all of the issues that people had concerns about in the community. A lot of it was behavior focused, as you can imagine. So a lot of concerns with people being aggressive on the roadways, speeding, red light running, not seeing enough enforcement, not getting educated enough. And then they would also like to see more bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. And then we kind of got the stakeholder feedback from all those different agencies that I showed earlier, and then took into account the public feedback and brought strategies to them of what can we actually do here locally to make a difference in the safety space, and wanted to gather input that way. So we went out to the community. We did both booths with the community, and also gathered input online. And we did these kind of safety pledges and stickers. So safety starts with me is kind of one of the big things. And I have some stickers for you guys if you're interested. But that's like one of the big things that we really are focusing on, is making sure that we all make those good decisions behind the wheel, especially since those are the trends that we're seeing. So there's kind of these 4 focus areas that we looked at, and this is kind of our solution package. And I'll go into these a little bit more in detail in the next couple slides. So the building safe streets is the engineering, roadway design and construction types of projects that you can imagine. So making sure that our intersections are built, lighted, that sort of thing. And making sure that we're prioritizing areas where people are getting killed and seriously injured for improvements. And then protecting vulnerable road users is a big piece. So this is people walking, biking, and then motorcyclists, just since they don't kind of have that level of protection that you might have in a vehicle. A lot of it for the solutions are education, both for drivers to awareness of these users, and then also for these user groups to be aware and willing to share the road and that sort of thing. And then we also have done a Safe Routes to School initiative. I know that the city had proposed a Safe Routes to School grant, so just continuing to support those efforts to make sure that our kiddos are getting to school safely, and making sure that they're making good life decisions in the long term. And then addressing dangerous behaviors was another of our focus areas that we wanted to address. The big factors that we have here in Mesa County is speeding and red light running. So working with ways to reduce that. Also, so just a lot of education kind of in this addressing dangerous behaviors space. And then creating a culture of safety is a little bit more abstract, but this is kind of making sure that we're working together with the stakeholders in the community and ensuring that this plan doesn't sit on a shelf and that we're making active initiatives, tracking our progress and performance, and making sure that we're doing right by the community and making sure nobody loses their life or is seriously injured. And making sure that this is transparent. We're continuing to get input from the community and just making sure we're working in that space. So for the implementation of this plan, basically, if you have the safety action plan, you can go after big federal grants, especially for construction types of projects. So that is something that we plan to do now that we have this plan in place. Something that is also exciting that was done after I made this presentation was on Friday. We got a supplemental grant to this action plan. So that was just adding additional layers to this grant that we already worked on. And so we can do a education and messaging study with the community. And so that would be kind of learning, is our brochures or our billboards, or what are the most effective tools to get the word out to the community. So that's one of the pieces of the grant that we received. The city of Fruita will also be getting speed feedback signs. So they, all of Mesa County put together for 12 total, and the city of Fruita would receive 2 of those. So we worked with Public Works there. And we also are going to look at a high risk network, which is the rural areas in Mesa County, and making sure that we have adequate data to make proactive decisions rather than being reactive to the crashes. So that was a grant we received word on last week. So we're excited to continue that effort there. And then we have a couple additional complementary tools that I just wanted to share with you. These are resources that you can reach out to our office about, or they are included in the plan already. So one of them is a crash data dashboard. So that is an interactive dashboard that you can access, and you can zoom into certain crashes, certain intersections, certain corridors, and see what the trends are there. And then we do have this engineering toolbox, which is in the appendices of the plan, which gives federal guidance to engineering types of infrastructure changes and why those might be best suited for the community. And then engineers would use those to make decisions when they're actually looking at those projects. And then the project cards are for engineering solutions and corridors for those big killed and seriously injured locations. So we're bringing forward to you today a resolution in support of this plan. Councilmember Parrish serves on our Grand Valley Regional Transportation Committee, and they approved kind of the first phase of this support of the plan. And then we're going kind of on a road tour to all of the different councils to inform them and educate them about this plan and the resolution at 4th. So Mesa County Board of County Commissioners approved it, as well as Palisade Board of Trustees. We'll bring this to you today, and then tomorrow will be the Grand Junction City Council. So I thank you for your time, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Congratulations on the supplemental grant. That's great news. Before you run away, any questions from council?
Just compliment you on this presentation and the thoroughness of the whole project and the plan, to see not only the data, but then to look at a comprehensive plan that I think will be very beneficial.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Just for a general awareness of the statistics, do appreciate the fact that you sent the presentation in earlier, so it was in our packet, so we had a chance to review it ahead of time. It was very, very helpful. All right. So no more questions. I think you're off the hook.
Awesome, thank you.
So, but that does lead us into our next item, which is resolution 2024-37, request to approve, sorry. There's a request to approve resolution 2024-37, recommending support and adoption, the Mesa County Safety Action Plan. So bring this to council.
I move to adopt resolution 2024-37, a resolution recommending support and adopting the Mesa County Action Plan.
Second that motion.
Any other questions? Comments?
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Downs,
Yes.
Counselor Miller, and Counselor Williams.
Absolutely.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. This now brings us up to the last presentation, which is one that I don't think any of us ever wanted to have to give. Normally, we're very excited about this. We got feedback from council about you, Mike, kind of what stuck out, memories and things like that. And in case people don't know, this is Mike's last meeting. So this will be our last opportunity to give him a hard time. We do have public participation coming up. It is fair game. So, you're not getting off that easy.
Thought we already did the goodbye party. That was Friday.
This is going to be the longest, most painful goodbye. With that, we all provided feedback to Amy, who does her magic and has something which she put together.
All right, guys, we'll see if we can get through it. In Western Colorado, where pretty mesas rise, a community thrives beneath bright blue skies. Fruita is a lovely place, a beautiful little city. It's funky, fun, and vibrant, and the folks, they are quite witty. Mike Bennett came with purpose and drive and helped Fruita's spirit to grow and to thrive. In each step forward, in each new plan, he was a true leader who understood this land. With eyes that saw Fruita's true worth, he tended the city with both wisdom and mirth. He listened and watched and became a strong guide to make Fruita's dreams rise up far and wide. With quiet strength, he led the way through both challenging and easy days. At the Civic Center where plans unfold, he helped shape the future strong and bold. His leadership, a beacon shining bright, guided the city toward what is right. With authenticity, he spoke with care, a voice of clarity, always fair. Engagement blooms in every street where neighbors gather and friends can meet. With Mike's help, the city found its way, a future brighter with each passing day. With hands that will help a citizen pull weeds, he was kind and attentive to the people's needs. He nurtured a spirit of service and care, with the effects of which can be felt everywhere. Now he's moving on to lead a much larger place where we know he will be a welcome face. He'll infuse another city with his leadership style. They'll benefit from him, always going the extra mile. For the roads he has paved and the hearts he has touched, we truly are thankful for so very much. As we bid our Mike a fond farewell, we wish him all the best. The city of Fruita is truly very lucky, grateful, and blessed.
So we have to do. the
Yeah, you have to.
We have to do the picture.
You have to shake the hands, you have to do the picture.
And Aaron, we so wish you were here. Aaron, we'll Photoshop you in. Support launch off. You made it through it.
I'm going to go on record that I'm reserving the right to continue to give you a hard time, though.
The meeting's not over.
All right. With that, we're going to move into public participation in consent agenda. For those that haven't been to a meeting for a little bit, we've changed our agenda a little bit to combine these two sections together. But this section is set aside for the city council to listen to comments by the public regarding items that do not otherwise appear on this agenda or that are on the consent agenda or want to give Mike a hard time. Consent agenda items are items where all conditions or requirements have been agreed to or met prior to the time they come before council. Members of the council or the public may ask that an item be removed from the consent section and fully discussed. All items not removed from the consent section will then be approved. A member of the council may vote no on a specific item without asking that they be removed from the consent section for full discussion. Any item that is removed from the consent agenda will be placed at the end of the consent agenda. We ask that if you come up and speak, that you limit your comments to 3 minutes and kindly start off with giving your full name and address. So with all of that, is there anybody that would like to come up and speak on anything that's on the consent agenda or anything else that does not appear on the agenda? Please come on up.
Thank you. I'm not commenting on the consent agenda or giving Mike a hard time. I know, it's a letdown.
And you are?
My name is Gavin Brook. I'm with Two Forks Ventures here in Fruita. I reside at 303 Otley. Mayor Bremen, council members, I'm standing here tonight as a firm handshake ahead of your deliberations this evening. We have been working together to launch the launch. We've been on field trips and site visits. We've had sticky note battles over project names, created a shared vision, and have worked many hours with our respective attorneys through 2 extensions to the MOU to arrive at the document that you're going to consider later. We started with a different, and we will finish with a different city manager. However, the work has been consistently guided and shepherded by the same community development. Early in the process, at the encouragement of Matthew and Mike, we created a set of guiding principles. Those principles are shared vision of the public-private partnership that could deliver a vibrant and exciting new mixed-use neighborhood and a riverfront park with many public amenities on the site of an old sewer treatment plant. I trust that you remain as excited about that as I am. I certainly hope that the next steps are quick and straightforward, and that in the very near future, we can ratify a partnership that is equitable and reasonable for both parties. Good luck tonight.
You. Thank you.
Let's go.
Please come on up.
I wasn't prepared to speak, but I'm Kim Coughlin Pardo, and I am the owner of the Fruita, 702 Mackenzie River Road. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody, especially Mike, for believing in the Fruita Muse. And I saw us on the agenda tonight, and I was here shampooing carpets tonight because we have our first move-ins tomorrow. Yeah, so we have 2 buildings tomorrow, and then hopefully 2 more on Friday, and then 3 more buildings over Thanksgiving, and lots more interest. And so I am just very appreciative, and I just thought I wanted to share that with you before you were departing. Thank you for being our city manager. And thank you to City Council
Thank you.
and the prior City Council as well.
Is there anybody else that would like to come up and speak? All right, doing that, I'm going to close public participation and bring it back to council for the consent agenda. Anybody have any questions, concerns on anything on the consent agenda? Aaron?
None, thank you.
Okay. There's always that awkward delay. All right, with that, it would need a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as before us.
Second.
First and second, any additional questions?
Done.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish, Counselor Downs, Counselor Miller, Counselor Williams,
Yes.
and Counselor Hansi.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. And tonight's a little bit of a different meeting. We're going to be jumping back and forth between city and the housing authority. And so with that, I'm not sure the exact verbiage, but we're going to adjourn from our city council meeting and move into our Fruita Housing Authority meeting. And with that, I believe we will have to call roll.
Sure.
And
Let's-
real quick,
Thank
Can
you.
I-
I was
Mary.
hoping you would jump in. Thank you, Mary Elizabeth.
She is.
so if you want to actually move to temporarily adjourn the city council meeting and then move to enter into the Fruita Housing Authority meeting.
Okay.
Thank
Does it have
you.
to be one or two motions?
I'd like to, please, because you're wearing two hats. Thanks.
Okay. Somebody want to make the,
I move to temporarily adjourn the city council meeting.
Second.
we have a first and a second. Any discussion? No.
Done.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Downs,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Purser. Motion passes 6-0.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Mary Elizabeth. I was really hoping you were on there.
Don't we have to have another motion?
Yeah.
We do, but wanted to thank her in between. All right.
You're welcome.
All right. And let's
Maybe
give
we're
people,
Gonna get that in there.
I'll give people a moment to exit. So you volunteering to make the motion?
No.
I know.
Really?
Mr. Mayor,
Track of you, Mike.
I move
Oh.
to open a Fruita Housing Authority meeting.
Second.
First is second. Any additional? All right.
Counselor Downs,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Williams, Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Purser, Counselor Parrish. Motion passes 6-0.
Okay. So with that, we have a budget presentation for the Fruita Housing Authority. It has Mike on here, but I suspect Shannon, you are going to lead us through this.
Correct. On the first two items, he will be doing that. Yes.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair and Board of Housing Authority Commissioners for the opportunity to present. In the Housing Authority bylaws, it does say that each year the Housing Authority has to formally recommend a budget to the City Council. So tonight's first agenda item is in reference to that, so that you can formally make a recommendation to the City Council on the 2025 budget for the Housing Authority. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this will probably be the easiest budget that you deal with each year. There are two line items for revenues. There is a small transfer from the Economic Development Fund of $5,100 to cover some legal expenses in case we have them, but also if we have any publishing fees for any of your meetings or resolutions throughout the year. And then when we're dealing with land use applications and we have attorney review of those, sometimes we do get reimbursement for that. So you'll see $50,000 in developer reimbursement fees. That's only if we have work that is being done or work done by our city attorney or special attorneys for the purposes of the Housing Authority. So we have $55,000 in revenue. And then on the expense side, we have $55,000 in legal services and $100 for publishing for just meeting notices or anything else that may come up. Staff recommends that you also recommend this budget to the City Council, and this will be part of the budget resolutions to adopt at the City Council's December 3rd meeting. That concludes my presentation, but always happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Still think we need him.
Because we're actually not councils or commissioners. Yes. All right. Any questions for Shannon? Aaron, do you have any?
I do not. Thank you.
All right. Okay. This, you are correct. This could be the shortest one ever. So we need a recommendation.
I move to recommend the current draft of the 2025 Fruita Housing Authority budget to the Fruita City Council as part of the City of Fruita's annual budget schedule.
We have a first and a second additional. Would you kindly pull commissioners?
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Hansi,
Yes.
Commissioner Purser,
Yes.
Commissioner Parrish,
Yes.
Commissioner Downs, and Commissioner Miller.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
All right, with that, Shannon, you are back up for a resolution amending the 2024 Fruita Housing Authority budget to provide supplemental appropriations of funds for a pass-through grant for the Fruita Muse.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair and Housing Authority Board of Commissioners. The resolution before you amends the 2024 budget and appropriates an additional $1 million in grant funds that the Fruita Muse project received from the Colorado Energy Office, specifically the High Efficiency Electric Heating Appliances Grant, or otherwise known as the HEHA grant. As part of helping out with this Fruita Muse development, one of the requests, in addition to a few of the other things that the Housing Authority did, was to receive this grant on behalf of the Housing Authority and then pass that through. So this resolution formally appropriates those funds, even though they were just basically passed through us and straight to the developer. We're not, housing authorities, as far as auditing and financial statements, tend to be a little complicated. So we're not entirely sure, since it's a pass-through grant, we actually do have to do this appropriation, but our auditors have advised us to move forward with this because if there was a mistake, then they'd have to note that on our financial statements later. So that's why you're seeing this resolution many months after the funds have actually been passed through. But always happy to take any questions, and I will stop my presentation there. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Rich, I don't know.
No questions from me.
All right. Any other questions?
None.
Any other commissioners? Aaron?
None.
Okay, great. Thanks. With that, is there a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt resolution, or excuse me, Mr. Chair, I move to adopt resolution FHA 2024-01, amending the 2024 Fruita Housing Authority budget with a supplemental appropriation of funds for a pass-through grant from the Colorado Energy Office to the Fruita Muse development.
Second.
First and a second. Any other questions or comments?
Commissioner Hansi,
Yes.
Commissioner Purser,
Yes.
Commissioner Parrish,
Yes.
Commissioner Downs, Commissioner Miller,
Yes.
Commissioner Williams.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you very much. So the last item that's on our list as Housing Authority is a resolution FHA 2024-02, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Fruita Housing Authority concerning becoming a limited partner in the owner of the Oaks project. And this is being presented by our special counsel, Dalton Kelly.
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. Dalton Kelly with Butler Snow. We serve as special counsel to the city and the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners in connection with some financing matters. What you have before you tonight is a resolution that would authorize the Housing Authority to participate as a limited partner in the ownership entity for the Oaks redevelopment. And so this is the property, the former Family Health West property at 805 West Otley. There's currently a proposal to redevelop that into 62 housing units. We filled you in on the details on that. The details of the actual redevelopment are still being negotiated, but one of the requests was for the Housing Authority to participate as a limited partner in the ownership entity for the Oaks project. The reason being, under the Housing Authority statute, if the project is owned by the Housing Authority or an entity in which the Housing Authority has an ownership interest, that project is then entitled to property tax exemption and a sales and use tax exemption for the duration of the construction of the project. And so that's a benefit to an affordable housing project because it can cut the borrowing costs and overall operation costs down the road, which helps achieve some of the AMI levels that you're looking for. And so the request tonight is authorization for the Housing Authority to enter into an operating agreement and participate as a limited partner in connection with the ownership of the Oaks project. And I'll just note two things. One, the remaining terms of any city participation will come before the city council later. Those are still being hashed out. And so the only thing before you tonight is the request for the participation in the ownership structure. And the second thing is the Board of Commissioners participated in a similar way with the Muse. And so you're a limited partner in that ownership entity for the same purpose, which is those property tax and sales and use tax exemptions. At this point, I'll pause for any questions.
Was that a pop-up hand online? Okay. Any questions? I do have one in terms of, and I apologize, I don't remember the percentage of ownership. Or what are we looking at in terms of this partnership? Like, is it 0.1? I mean, one.
Usually it's 0.1 or 0.01. It's very small, usually just enough. It's really 0.1 or 0.01. I don't know if we've talked about the exact percentage yet because that'll be in the operating agreement.
All of the terms will be hashed out by the city council, correct?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
do it and bring it to us, and then if we have bring it to the city council, and then if there's questions there, that's where that piece of the puzzle happens.
Right, for all the additional terms for the actual redevelopment. Yeah, that's going to be a completely separate agreement. The operating agreement is strictly for operation of the entity, not the actual redevelopment, which is all the other terms.
I just want to clarify.
Any other questions? Aaron, don't want to leave you out.
I appreciate that. No further questions.
With that, somebody care to make a motion?
I move to approve resolution 2024-02, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the Fruita Housing Authority concerning becoming a limited partner in the owner of the Oaks project.
All right, we have a first and a second. Any other questions?
Commissioner Purser,
Indeed.
Commissioner Parrish,
Yes.
Commissioner Downs, Commissioner Miller,
Affirmative.
Commissioner Williams,
Yes.
Commissioner Hansi,
Yes.
motion passes 6-0.
All right.
I was too.
All right. So with that, Mary Elizabeth, please make sure we're doing this the right way. With this, we're going to adjourn from the Fruita Housing Authority meeting and return back to the Fruita regular city council meeting. Is that verbiage good?
That is good. Thank you.
All right.
Excuse me, but I do want to see a motion for going back into the city council meeting.
Okay. Somebody care to make that motion?
I move to open the city council meeting. Do I need to say well, because we already were in it.
Move back into.
Okay,
Move
I
back
move to
in.
move. I move to move back into the city council meeting.
Second.
All right, first and second, I'm assuming there's no discussion, but double check. All right,
So Mary Elizabeth, am I polling the housing authority or the city council?
You're now polling the city council.
Okay. All right, Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Downs, Counselor Miller,
Yeah.
Counselor Williams,
Sure.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
and Counselor Purser.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0.
okay.
Different
So,
levels of enthusiasm.
Now we're going back into. Glad Mary Elizabeth is here to keep us in line. All right, with that, we're moving into the administrative agenda. And our Assistant City Manager, Shannon Vesson, is going to go over the 2025 annual budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council for the opportunity to present. This is our final presentation on the 2025 budget. Tonight we'll be covering several funds related to economic development, such as the Economic Development Fund, our Marketing and Promotion Fund, and also our Community Development Department. And then we will quickly go through the all fund summary, the budget overview as is currently presented in the draft 2025 budget. This is an efficient group tonight, so I'll try to keep us kind of on that same timeline. We have spent
Roll.
kind of like it now. We have spent a considerable amount of time on the 2025 budget. For the record, per our charter, we're required to propose a budget to the City Council at our September workshop. So we did that. Council received the first draft, and then on October 15th, our second meeting in October, went over capital projects and infrastructure and core services, which included an overview of our capital projects, including the budget, our Public Works Department, and also all of our enterprise funds. At our October workshop, we discussed outside agency funding and hopefully addressed any concerns from the council regarding the potential budget. And then last meeting, we talked about Parks and Recreation, the Community Center Fund, personnel, and police department. So we've spent a lot of time on this, so I'll try to go through this pretty quickly, but the bulk of the budget has been presented to you and we've went over it in length. So very happy to be nearing completion as it goes for adoption on December 3rd. Tonight, we're talking about economic health and development. And then at our next meeting, barring any special sessions from the legislature, which happened last year, but I don't think is going to happen again this year. I should probably knock on wood. Budget will be set for adoption on December 3rd and is adopted through these 4 steps. We approve the fees and charges. We adopt the budget. Council then appropriates the budget. And we approve the mill levy, which remains unchanged from prior years. So quickly going into economic health and development, we're going to start off with our community development program. It's been a busy year for community development. This list up here is published on our website on a monthly basis, but kind of articulates everything that's being pulled from our development community, but also our residents as well. This is all the planning and building permits that have been issued through October. 618 planning permits or planning clearances and building permits have been issued. You can kind of see the breakdown of what those are right there. It's been a very successful year for that department as well. We had the success of the 169 North Mulberry project, which is being redeveloped. They already have 1 tenant and a potential second tenant on the way. So that's been a good addition to our downtown, especially with that expanded parking. Our community development department also received the 2024 Downtown Excellence Award for pop-up innovation in small communities from Downtown Colorado, Inc. for the Mulberry Plaza, which was a good recognition from our peers across the state. And we have 105 short-term rental permits currently issued. All 65 in the triangle have been accounted for and are currently active, and the rest are outside of the triangle or other parts of Fruita. Last year, we brought building inspections in-house, and that's been a great benefit to our development community, but our residents as well. Now we are truly a one-stop shop for all development and projects in Fruita, the same place that developers or people can get their planning clearances. They can also meet the people who will be inspecting their projects, 1, 2, 3, even more than that. So year to date, we've already received, or our staff has completed over 3,000 inspections. And this number is actually incorrect. I updated it this morning, but not on this PowerPoint. This is the 4th time this week I've given this presentation because we're going to all employees. So I apologize for not having this one updated. But revenue received through October is $170,000 just from our building inspections department. Overall, our community development department budget is expected to increase 10%. Per council's direction at one of our workshops, we did add an additional $50,000 to go back out and update our housing needs assessment. So that was one thing that the Grand Valley did a few years ago. They did the overall housing needs assessment, and there was a Fruita component to it, but council has directed us to include some funding so we can really dig deep into what we're hearing from our residents and also community members and really get specific to Fruita and what the needs are out there. So you'll see a $50,000 increase for that. We are anticipating getting a grant to offset that cost 50/50. Personnel services are increasing as well. Most full-time employees will get a 5% increase, along with changes in benefits like health insurance and dental insurance, and most other line items will see no change. Moving on to the Economic Development Fund. This is another big change that you probably saw in this version of the draft. Just for the record, I did publish a new draft of the 2025 budget last Thursday. And with that draft and with your cover sheet for this meeting, I highlight all of the changes that we've made to the budget since it was first introduced. One of the big changes was that we added a $400,000 cash contribution for a potential attainable housing project in Fruita. So all of that will be subject to council approval of agreements, wherever it may be. But if there is a project in Fruita that the council would like to contribute those lodging tax dollars or American Rescue Plan dollars to, those funds will be appropriated in the 2025 budget. We're also including the $12,000 for the lease of the facade along the co-op grain tower. And we still have the same contribution to GJEP, which is about $15,000 a year.
Can I stop?
Of course.
An increase of 2,050%.
It is, yeah. So this budget was pretty small beforehand. So it was just, I think, $20,000 between the GJEP contribution and the Housing Authority contribution. Yeah, yeah, it's quite the increase, but it's all due to that one-time funds. Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Moving on to the marketing and promotion fund. So we actually have our contract mostly finalized with the firm that will hopefully be coming on to represent Go Fruita in the city of Fruita next year. So that contract will go before the city council either on the 3rd of December or the 17th, and we'll also have them present either that same night to you, whether it's in person or virtual. And we're also hoping that the tourism board will be able to meet them the next day. Is that the plan? Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So we reached out to them. Our marketing and promotion efforts, we're actually just wrapping up with our visitor guide. We just sent that to our tourism board last week. That's the guide that's distributed at all the welcome centers throughout Colorado that gets grabbed up pretty quickly by people stopping at those visitor centers. So we're about to print 15,000 more copies of the redesigned visitor guide, which I think is going to be awesome. And then we've also continued to fund more special events than ever next year. We have the winter concert, but also some new events that are new to the area or maybe that are new to getting our sponsorship. And then we've added some additional software assets to help us with our photo and video content now and in the future. Lodging tax continues to kind of exceed all of our projections overall. We think it's a combination of a few things. The first being lodging is getting more expensive, as inflation has continued to increase. We're probably seeing the cost of lodging go up, but also more people could be potentially traveling to the area as well. So in this last version of the budget, I actually bumped up our predictions for lodging tax, and I think we'll actually exceed last year's, which was our best year for lodging tax, around a little over $200,000. I think we'll exceed that next year as well. But overall, expenses are budgeted decrease. We had that one grant for Carlisle Parks and Wildlife non-motorized trail match that we budgeted this year at $40,000 for the 18 road expansion, which has been complete. And then we're wrapping up with the visitor guide, so those expenses won't be carried over into the next year. That's all I have for the first piece of the presentation. I'll pause there in case anyone has any questions, or I can jump right into the budget overview / all fund summary.
Aaron, just because you're online, want to make sure you're heard.
I'm good for now. Thank you.
For now.
Anybody else? So on the 170,000 year to date for building inspections, I'm going from memory, but isn't that what we thought we'd bring in?
We have budget right around 200.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of, yeah.
Tracking.
Yep. Yeah. The last couple months, we'll see, but we'll probably be pretty close to it, I would imagine. Yeah. Yeah. And last year, I think we brought in around, it was either 200 or 220. I can't remember off the top of my head.
It's way off.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the only question I had.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to the all funds.
Awesome. So this is just an overall summary of all departments, programs, and projects throughout the 2025 budget. This was included in the first draft of the second draft that was submitted to council in October, and then is included in the updated draft that we provided to council last Thursday. So expenses, 30.6 million, which is an actual decrease compared to 2024. Again, that's due to those capital projects, those large scale projects that we included in the 2024 budget that we will probably be carrying over early next year, but just an overall decrease in those large scale projects. So we hope to have those complete. Revenues are also estimated to decrease at 28.9 million. A lot of that is grant revenue. So as we complete a lot of these projects, whether it's at the wastewater reclamation facility or it's some of these other ones that are funded through grant revenues, we won't receive those grant revenues. So they'll kind of show up as a net decrease, although our overall operating revenues like sales taxes, county sales tax, et cetera, are kind of on pace exactly where we thought they would be. We are anticipating use of $1.7 million in fund balance next year, which is essentially our savings account. That number has increased since the last time we spoke, just because I added $640,000 for land acquisition in downtown Fruita, which is something we'll hopefully complete in early January. So that went up based upon that. All of those funds, though, are for either capital projects, land acquisition, or capital equipment overall. Just taking a quick dive into our 2025 revenues. Our taxes are our largest source of revenues. Our largest source is the 3% city sales tax that's levied on goods and services sold, most goods and services sold throughout Fruita, but also online. That's followed by our county sales tax, where we get revenue share back for that, but also our property tax as well. So that's $14 million budgeted for next year. The next piece of the pie is charges for services. So those are mostly utility expenses, so sewer fees that residents pay each month, trash fees, irrigation water, and then that also includes our recreation center passes as well. As we've seen an overall increase in the amount of people visiting the rec center, we're also seeing increases in revenues. And then that next chunk is intergovernmental revenue, or 3.3 million. That's grants or anything that's shared to us from either state or federal government overall. Same information, but just shows kind of revenue and expenses for the last 4 years. I'm also happy to dig deeper into any of these if you're interested. Tax revenues, I already talked about that.
Well, that was pretty quick.
Oh, sorry. I've realized I'm slowly getting ahead of myself in some of these. So we are anticipating $14 million in tax revenues next year, which is a 1% increase over the 2024 budget. Are we ready, Rich? I'm kidding. This bar graph kind of shows each type of tax revenue, the blue being the city sales tax, purple being the county sales tax, and that dark blue being property tax, and we have all the other smaller taxes as well. Intergovernmental revenue, I already talked about this, $3.2 million. It is anticipated decrease just due to completion of some of those capital projects that are not initially budgeted in 2025.
Chicken.
Yeah, just gonna say, what's with the picture? I mean,
Yeah.
some special.
Yeah, headless chicken interdepartment.
Yeah.
Rental revenue.
Intergovernmental. Yeah, it's a molar you have to think about a little bit. And then charges for services, 8.3 million. That's a 10% increase overall. A lot of that is the community center, but that's also a 2% increase in our sewer charges, which is pretty consistent with what we've done each year. And then a 7% increase from waste management, which is something that we just pass through to residents, and that's charged by us. Then we have a few smaller sources of revenues, licenses such as business licenses, liquor licenses, et cetera. We're anticipating an increase. Fines, assessments such as municipal court fees, restitution, stuff like that. We'll
Why
see.
is that decrease?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so per our current budget, so we actually count impact fees. We record those under fines and assessments. So for the 19 road project, we have I think about $500,000 in impact fees for that project. So since we're not using as many impact fees next year, it shows as an overall decrease, but all the other line items have actually increased overall or stayed the same. So that's all related to development impact fees. And then miscellaneous revenue and then interest earnings, we remain and anticipate to be relatively flat. Those have been performing very well, and we're probably going to double what we budgeted this year. So we anticipate that next year, even though there could be some changes at the federal level, we'll probably be consistent with what we budgeted this year, around $450,000 to $500,000 overall in interest earnings. That's it for revenues. In case anyone has any questions, I'll pause there for 1 second, or I can jump right into expenses.
Jump right in.
Jump right in.
No.
I like it.
I still have a little bit of say. Aaron?
I'm good. Thank you.
He's so disappointed. All right. What Rich said.
So 2024 expenses can be broken out largely into 3 different categories. Operations, which is things like, 2025 expenses, thank you, can be broken out into 3 categories. Operations, so salaries, benefits, purchase professional services, supplies, etc. Capital expenses, which are those large projects, land acquisition, capital equipment, and then debt on the Fruita Community Center and also the wastewater reclamation facility. Our operating expenses are anticipated to go up 5% compared to the prior year. As you can see, this is mostly in personnel services. We are budgeting a 5% increase for most full-time staff. In our police department, they'll get more than that 5% increase. And then we're also seeing some of our benefit costs increase as well. Our health insurance, 9.5%, our dental 8%. Purchase services, so that's things like building maintenance, professional services, legal fees. We're anticipating that those will stay relatively similar to what we have. And then supplies are increases along with our special projects, but not too much of an increase. And we've already discussed a lot of those in prior meetings, such as additional supplies and entertainment for the Mike Taylor's Chicken 25th anniversary, switching around some of those firework expenses, etc. This is just the same information in a bar graph. Okay, I'll go back.
Thank you.
This kind of shows a comparative from 2025 to 2022, just operations, capital, debt, and other financing for our expenses. I'll wait for the cue. All right. Operating expenses overall are estimated to increase 6%. Out of that 20 million operating expenses, we have 11.3 set aside for salary benefits and fringe benefits. So that things that we are required to pay for as an employer, like FICA, unemployment insurance, death and disability for our first responders, et cetera. And then purchase services, we have $5.2 million set aside in next year's budget. Here's more detail about supplies, the 2.1 million. That also includes things like utilities, tools, just, things that, our crews need for everyday kind of core service delivery. Then we talked about those special projects, such as the fireworks, downtown artwork, and our contribution to the GBT and the Regional Transportation Planning Office going up slightly. Capital expenses, we have 6 million included in next year's budget, and that's with the land acquisition that was just added. I apologize that this text is small, but this is actually taken straight from the all fund summary in the budget overview. So kind of looking left to right, the top is just mobile equipment that's either new or due for replacement. We have computer equipment that's due for replacement next year. And then we have kind of general furniture and equipment on the bottom half of that left side right there. So that makes up 1.2 million. And then on the right side is all of our capital projects that make up the rest, or 4.8 million. Again, the biggest chunk of that is the Maple Street Bridge replacement, which we received the congressional directed spending for in a Mesa County grant, so 2.25 million. We then have $640,000 for the land acquisition, and then we have $550,000 for overlays next year, and there are a few other smaller projects in there as well. All this information can be found in our budget document, but for this purposes, I just want to include that same graph so you know what to reference if you're looking specifically for that. And this was something that Mayor Pro Tem Hancy requested at our last meeting. This kind of shows an overview of all of our funds and kind of where we're sitting at the end of the year and how we estimate we'll be. So again, apologize for the small text. This is straight from the budget document. But this is on the left side. It kind of has our beginning funds that we estimate will be available if we were to spend everything that was budgeted this year. And then that middle column is revenues, expenses, and then we have the change in available funds. Overall, we're anticipating that we use $1.7 million in fund balance next year, all on capital expenses. And kind of when you look at all funds combined, we'll have about $29 million in fund balance between all funds. A lot of that is restricted. So some of that will be for specific purposes, whether it's to pay debt in the future or it's, Tabor restrictions or even self-imposed financial restrictions that we have. But I will say that overall, we are in a very healthy financial position. That's what's been allowed us to pay for a lot of these big projects with cash, which is really good because you never want to rely solely on financing or bonding or anything like that. That's all I have. I'll stop there for questions on expenses before I turn it over to our Public Works Director, Kimberly Boland.
Aaron?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Shannon, for putting that together and talking about the more so like this is the health, that budget overview of our statement of positions, that we're in a healthy position. So you were talking about how there were some restrictions, or a lot of the funds there, of that $27 million of fund balance, it has some restrictions. And I guess I can see some of that being a safety net, which is smart. And then I see that the top line, the general fund, is that entire 10.9 million, almost $11 million, is that unrestricted, or is some of that restricted there as well?
Yeah, that's a great question. So out of that 10.9, and that also assumes that we were to spend kind of all of our expenses that we had this year. So our fund balance for a general fund is probably closer to 20 million, but from there, and if you've probably seen in our financial statements, we have expenses that are restricted for, they're assigned for future use. So 20 million, you take off everything that we have appropriated this year that will roll forward into next year. So that probably brings us closer to that 12.6. Out of that 12.6, there's a little over 1.3 million for capital equipment replacement. There is a operating reserve of 25%, which is completely self-imposed by us and by council as a financial policy that you adopt as part of the budget. So there's a 25% reserve, which means if we ever had to operate without revenue, we could do so for at least 3 months using that reserve if kind of worse comes to worse. There's also a 3% reserve that's set by Tabor, the Tax Bill of Rights. Then we have a few other restrictions on the general fund. But for the most part, I would say about 7-8 million of that is unrestricted, which includes that operating reserve of 25%.
That's great. Thank you.
No,
Appreciate it.
of
That's
course,
all the questions I have.
Yeah. Thank you.
Can we go back?
Oh, of course.
Tool, go back. That one.
This one. Oh, tools?
The page that's out of the one more.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What do I got to do to get the wood?
This is
As council, we don't get to direct that through city manager and department heads.
Just glaring. Not out.
So this is probably the last opportunity for any feedback that you may have on the budget before we move towards adoption.
James?
Really dismissed.
No.
Oh, no,
No, that's...
He's saying this is the time.
Wood chipper sure would look good up there.
I think our Parks and Rec crews, they definitely would want one, and we have rental budgets that we set aside for rentals of the wood chipper each year. But again, if council direction, that is council direction.
Right. And my understanding from previous conversations is it's not a universal wood chipper. That depending on what we are chipping, it needs different types of wood chippers.
Yeah.
And the wood chips that would go into the dog park, we may not necessarily have the necessary source of wood for that.
Yeah, I think we settled upon just probably buying quality wood chips for that. But they do have needs as far as like fire mitigation. I think the issue right now that we've heard is really capacity and their ability to actually take the time and take it out and whatnot. But yeah.
Go to that Grand Junction dog park and we're losing. They're beating us. Got really nice wood chips all over that place.
But I did hear purchasing.
Yes.
Purchasing nice.
Yeah. We did budget the purchase of wood chips.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe.
Take that as a kind of.
So you're saying
There's a chance. All right. Any other questions before we move on?
No.
All right.
So I've made a lot of changes to the 2025 budget. We added the housing needs assessment. We added downtown land acquisition. We upped our overlay budget. So the last kind of piece of feedback that we need from council is kind of what are your expectations, or what are you looking for as far as the facility studies / need assessment? So I think it was maybe 6 months ago or maybe July that Mayor Bremen discussed, should we be really looking into our facilities, not just for future, our future needs as far as, our employees and the number of employees growing, but also what's kind of the quality of our buildings that we currently have. So we started looking into that, and we had some bids, or we looked into some projects that maybe came in higher than we initially thought. That was maybe what the council was looking for. So we're here.
Statement.
Yeah. So we're kind of here to get any kind of last second direction from council on what maybe you were expecting from that study. What are your expectations of that? Because we can always include in the budget now. If we don't get included, we would probably just have to go for contingency funds or a supplemental at some point next year. But Kimberly Bolin, our Public Works Director, has actually been taking the lead on this. So I'm going to turn it over to her to speak on that, which is her favorite thing to do. Since we're so ahead of schedule, she has 10 slides. I will pull up.
I'll believe it when I see it. Started on shore. You been there recently?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. Kimberly Bullen, Public Works Director. As Shannon said, through the discussions and requests from council to look at facility needs assessment, what are conditions of our building, our space needs, we did get with a firm called McKinstry. It's a national firm that does facility condition assessments. And they're also part of a cooperative partnership. So the RFP, similar to what we did with our pavement assessment, that RFP process has already been undertaken, and we can enjoy the benefits of that, not have to do an RFP because they're already listed as a partner in a cooperative purchase. They're also a pre-qualified energy savings, partner out of the Colorado Energy Office. So when we started looking at this, it kind of grew. And so when we do the facility condition assessment, we started talking about a complete package. So energy investment grade audit of all of our facilities, as well as the facility condition assessment. And that has added to the cost of this project. So the investment grade audit alone is around $67,000. And that's to do all of our facilities owned by the city, and then also in addition, the Fruita Middle School. The other part, the facility condition assessment, is much more. It's a little over $200,000, $204,000, I think, is the total cost of that. So roughly we're around $270,000 for the total complete package of the assessment and the energy investment audit. I think what we're looking for from some guidance on council is, do you want to do all of our facilities? Do you want to target? Because that then we can renegotiate with the firm to draw that cost down.
Say all our facilities. That's obviously this. It's obviously
Yeah, I can run through that. Civic Center, City Shops, Police Department, Chamber of Commerce, FCC, Dino Journey, and then the Fruita Middle School. So it does leave out the wastewater treatment plant, but that's kind of contained within its own needs assessment process.
And I would just add that remembering when this first came up, if you step back and, okay, why did we start down this road? It was definitely a focus. We did a project, and for those of you that weren't on council, we had Chamberlain Architects come and do a review of this facility alone, and that was to look at some general space needs. I will say that that was a little bit of just trying to look at what we needed right now and in the real immediate future, meaning just a few years. So it wasn't super in depth of where we think we're going to be with number of people in 5, 10, 15 years necessarily. But it was more to look at what can we do with the existing building that we have. And some of you may remember we had there was a plan where you could turn this room around so the dais is on this side. But it wasn't ideal. The ideal, for a council room was main level and separated from a building for security standpoint, in, out, public restrooms just for that, where the whole building's not open, council meeting, those types of things. So we started there and we looked at adding, and we did the first step of a few additional spaces or 2 rooms with additional offices. And then that led to these discussions that had come up with council along the way and with staff. I mean, we're looking at, this is an aged facility before you put too much money into it, knowing that our needs, we don't know the exact number until we do a full assessment, but we know that we would grow out of this fast if we weren't utilizing all the space for just city staff. And that could also require additions to the facility, and being an aging facility that needs new windows and all types of different things. We started there. What do we do with this building? Well, that can kind of include some of our other facilities. Doesn't necessarily have to include all of them if that's still just the scope. Then there was discussion about, if we were to consider any form or fashion with the middle school, do we want to get more information on it, include that in an assessment? The energy piece and the future, the additional piece as well for future maintenance plans, those are very helpful for us when we know that we're going to have a facility for a long time to get ahead of that. I would say that we do have some reservation from the standpoint if we do all buildings and we don't have the ability to act on all of those, that those could become dated in certain ways, and we don't necessarily want to spend too much money on plans that we might have to update by the time we're looking at certain facilities. The challenge with that is if we were to go to whether we were to build a new facility potentially or renovate a new larger facility, and depending on what those sizes are, would we consolidate any of our other facilities and things like that? But in that vein, that wouldn't necessarily mean that you're having to do something new to the one of those smaller facilities you'd consolidate. So the energy piece was something that Kimberly learned about, and working with the state and also with these entities that do it. And it's cheaper when you do everything all together, but I think we should also be mindful of, where are we at right now and what we might be needing to make some decisions in the near future. So.
We do the energy audit, we have to act on those items. Is that correct?
We do if the audit demonstrates that there will be cost savings. But if it demonstrates that there would not be cost savings, then you don't have to do those, and you don't have to pay back any of the.
No, so
Last time we updated our electric, it's more than likely there's going to be a cost saving.
And you're right. And if we're the concern with that would be if it's a building where we might have information and there's cost savings, yet the information that we receive means we're doing something different or not utilizing that building or something like that. That's one nuance to that we might not want to make those improvements if we're not proceeding. Maybe we're selling a facility, maybe there's a number of things, right, that could happen.
So, but part of the original discussion is, as a municipality, as we continue to grow, our resident space is growing. Clearly, we have a lot of, projects that are in the works and will do so over the next so many years. But looking at our future growth and what does it take to support from a city standpoint, that future growth. So pulling things out of the air, it could be like, okay, from a facilities, we're going to need to hire 4 more people and have 3 more trucks or whatever it might be. Well, and we can say, okay, well, if we look forward, we don't have that space. So, but that doesn't mean we would act on it right away. So I thought originally part of it was like, as we're starting to grow, what are we going to need in the near and kind of long-term future? So then we can look at that and say, okay, now we can come up with a facilities plan, knowing that this building we may be able to get away with for another, let's say, 3 years. But after that, to renovate it, we can be looking at another $8 to $10 million. I'm just making these numbers up. But then at that point, council would be like, it may not be worth investing in this. Do we look at trying to do something else? So I'm hesitant to say, let's spend the full blown, but more, let's get an idea of what we're going to need just space wise in the next 5 to 10 years. So therefore we can go back and say, okay, with what we have as facilities, what we may potentially have as buildings and stuff like that, how do we start to plan and then develop that needs?
So that piece of the project is the more expensive piece of the project because you have to go in and do your space planning and meeting with different departments and finding out the growth. And then you need to do the evaluation of your facilities because that's going to inform you as to whether or not you can do renovations to the buildings. How long are the systems, what's the extended life of the systems within the buildings? So to me, I think it's a little bit more complicated to gather the data about the facilities you have to make informed decisions about your growth and where you go for the future.
What about in terms of the people that we would need? I mean, would be part.
That's part of that. Yeah.
Right. But do we need to go beyond that right away? If we're not going to be able to act on it, if we kind of do all this planning, but we know it's 5 years down the road, 5 years from now, is that information still valuable?
I think the deliverable that you get from this facility master planning is strategies for kind of like what Mike talked about. Do we not invest in some of the facilities because it's just not going to be prudent to do so because it's not going to meet the needs of the city in the future? I think the deliverable is some of that strategic planning to think about what's the best use of our facilities or do we renovate? Do we build new? What do we do?
Those pieces within the 67,000.
They are not. The 67,000 is strictly just an investment grade audit of your energy efficiency of your buildings. And that's what, if they decide as they're working through that, there really isn't going to be enough savings to pay for improvements, then they'll stop that process.
Okay, I misheard the numbers. I thought the energy savings was the 200,000 and the
Yeah, energy savings is the 67. Yeah, and the facility master planning is the more expensive,
okay.
in-depth analysis.
Kimberly, do we have the cost if, just as an example, for the facility, I'm going to say the wrong one now, but to look at the needs and the space needs and the people and all that for just this facility, if it didn't include every city facility and or the middle school?
The facility, this is the investment grade audit. It's not broken out per facility. It's broken out based on the facilities we gave them to evaluate. So again, I think it's open to negotiation. If we come back and we tell them, we want you to focus on the Civic Center building, maybe the police department and the middle school or something, I think that would.
The middle school is really going to end up being the only solution as far as space comes in the long run. Nothing has enough space that we can grow into 10, 15 years from now without that building.
Without building.
Without building. Yeah, but I mean, as far as the ones that she just mentioned, that's the only one that has square footage that's not ours.
And the cost, although it's not broken down by building, we know they calculate it by square footage, right?
But I think the three you just listed, I mean, I would be interested myself, I'd be interested in those 3 and just seeing what that price looks like when it comes back. This building, if we feel like we don't have enough information on this building already, then this building, the middle school and the police department.
You said the police department?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, the rec center, I mean, we're not doing anything with that, so.
And the City Works building, we don't need to do anything. We don't need to do anything with the chamber building. We don't need to do anything with the museum.
I agree.
Yeah.
The only thing that is that the facility condition assessment informs you about the condition of those buildings. And whether or not they've got how much useful life left and the systems that exist within them, the useful life and some of the analysis.
It does, okay, yeah.
It's a heavy price tag to me.
That's what I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's hard to.
But we're not saying we'll do it. We could hear what when we shrink it down by several buildings.
Right.
Maybe we feel better about the number.
Yeah, I think the question was the scope of, what did you guys want to look at? And then whether or not you want to budget money in the budget before it gets adopted, or we come back to you and do a supplemental or contingency.
Those three.
I would rather have it put into the budget
Yes,
going into next year.
correct. I would too, and I am in favor of the more complete assessment because we're looking at all of these buildings really as older type buildings. And I just think it's prudent to know what it is that we've got in the lifetime and what we can expect. The chamber office, yeah, maybe they won't change anything and that thing is good enough for that size and operation for the foreseeable future. But do we know that?
But, knowing what we have on our plate for next year, is this something that we would want to start to really tackle strategically long-term facility planning next year?
Wait, I just want to clarify before, are you saying you're in favor of doing a study on all of our buildings? Okay.
And you're not deterred by the price.
Yes and no. Yes, it's a big price, but at the same time, when you consider the consequence of not having that kind of knowledge and what that cost might be, then I would say it's a great investment in the future. That's just
Do you
how I
think we'll
do it.
be able to do something with that information in the next? I mean, is this a 3-month, like you said, yes, we're going to do it today. How long is that time frame?
I think so the investment grade audit, I'm not sure about the timeline, but I want to make sure you guys understand the investment grade audit. If they find energy savings that are worth pursuing to make repairs and upgrades to buildings, that all gets rolled into an energy performance contract. And it's the future energy savings that pays for those improvements. Now, sometimes those improvements take a long time for the payback. And that's where we could explore grant funding through DOLA to buy down the years that it would take to get those savings realized. But so that's the one piece. And then the facility master plan, I think they estimated, I wrote this down, 8 to 10 weeks on phase 1, 8 to 12 weeks, phase 2, and then another 20 to 24 weeks on the phase 3. So yeah, I don't think we're doing any improvements into this next year. I think it's all going to be the evaluation and the assessment and building a facility master plan that we then strategize about what comes first and how we plan that out in the future.
Should we be paying for the school?
So keep in mind, they did a facility master plan for different purposes, but there are aspects and results of that we can be utilized. I don't know if they are fully what we need, so there might be more, but there are some results from their facility master plan that we have that we could share with this group. So I mean, that doesn't answer the question 100%. I think that's something to be aware of and know.
What they have.
Same information.
It lived, I mean, you can find it. It's on their website.
Yeah, we have it.
I would also offer that McKinstry and the Colorado Energy Office are willing to do presentations to council, so you better understand what we're getting. If that's something council would like a workshop in the new year, we can certainly get that scheduled.
Is McKinstry are they the only option?
No, there's several firms out there.
The reason I even said that was just that we said that we were kind of surprised at the number that came back. I was just curious if it would be worth looking at a different operation just to see if there was a.
Yeah, we certainly can. Some of the financial, so for the energy investment grade audit, that's all determined at state pricing. And because of the distance we are from the state, we get charged a little bit more, but, energy performance contracting companies have to follow that same financing, that expense. It's the facility master plan that we might be able to get some different pricing.
And my next question for that, sorry to Bogart, but then my next question would be for that. You mentioned that there might be the grants for DOLA for the energy. If we come up with stuff, is there anything that we could chase after that would help us with that? Any other grants that would help us with the master planning or anything, or is that something that you could think about?
Yeah, we can certainly think about it and explore some options if they're available.
I have a couple things, if I can chime in, or just let me know when I can.
Please, Aaron.
I'm definitely, I'm definitely in favor of getting that presentation from a vendor that we're trying to use to better understand things, and definitely am looking at more amending the budget later when we get into the year and we understand more. I don't want to rush into anything, especially where there's something this important. And I think we're struggling with it because we still need some more information. I know that I still have, like for the middle school, I know that's a big thing that's coming up, but I guess I look at it that we don't own it. We don't know what the future necessarily holds with that building. The school district has that needs assessment or whatever they called it, that it'd be good for us to look at it. So I'm definitely more interested in having a workshop to where we can get a presentation to understand what all this means and what our different options are. And that gives us time to look at the school thing plus, and then just to amend the budget as necessary when we get to that point.
So I think there's a couple things, you know, the amending of the budget, if we put it in the budget now, or do we amend it next year? And that's one point of discussion, but I think the other point is what all do we want to go ahead and have a presentation in terms of what would be included, so we have a better understanding.
I just wanted to add, if what I think the presentations would be great. It's super helpful. I mean, it was helpful for Kimberly and I to have some presentations already, and you can ask a lot of questions and kind of see what some of the outcomes are. I also want to add that if you were to do a smaller scope and understand what we need for this facility and possibly whether the police department's included or not, right? And you know what we need moving forward. And then you were to look at the possibility of the middle school, or whether it was the middle school or whether it was a new construction, those would be separate projects. That would be getting people in to come in and say, to meet your needs that you know you want, this is what it would cost to renovate that, not from a McKinstry, right? That would be a construction company, an FCI, or something like that coming in and saying, to meet your space needs and to do the renovations to this facility or to build a new, that's like I think you can think about that potentially as a separate project after you know what you need, and then are looking for, okay, we know the middle school is large enough to meet those needs and maybe some other needs. The most you're going to get out of this is just some estimates of what that would be, but you would want real bids on what that would be, knowing what your needs are. McKinstry can come in and do that for the facilities we have existing. You can talk to them and consider what they can do with a building you don't own yet and all that. But I think that's another way to look at it as well, and just wanted to share that.
And really, I mean, I guess part of the purpose of the meeting tonight is, yes, here's the price tag. Do we want to include it in the budget? Because this is still under a budgetary conversation. It's not tonight. I don't think the purpose of tonight is necessarily for us to decide on here's X, Y, and Z of what we want to do. So if we were to go through it tonight and say, you know what, we still have too many questions in terms of guidance for numbers and stuff like that. Does that answer the question? Is because we can't give you, we're not giving you, until you get the guidance you need, you're not going to be able to come back with numbers. And therefore that should go into next year's budget is part of what, you know, I'm thinking in terms of how we proceed with this section of the meeting.
Without the numbers, we don't know what to put in the budget.
Right, but it's, we're also saying we want more information to understand what goes into these assessments and everything else before we determine and make a final decision of this is what we want and the price tag. So from a budgetary standpoint, are we committed? Do we want to put a number in the budget for 2025 saying we want this much? Or should we say, we're going to give you guidance in terms of here's what we're looking for to figure out the numbers. When we get that numbers, then we'll do an amendment in 2025.
I'm more comfortable with the second option.
Amending, that's what I'd go for.
Yeah, I want
Right.
more information. That's where I would be.
So from a budgetary standpoint, you know, for what you need to do, are we comfortable with saying we're going to work through the numbers before and then just do an amendment? I mean, is there a downside to doing that?
Yeah.
No.
but What's the staff recommend? What did you guys want? What would you prefer? I mean, not that we're gonna go that way, but do you see a reason to expedite it now, or does it hurt you if we?
I don't necessarily see the need to expedite it. I think that we just wanted to try to understand scope from all of you.
Right.
Get a good idea of what you guys truly want. It does not make sense for us to spend a bunch of money if we know we're not going to do something with facilities. That just doesn't make sense. If you truly want to look at a few facilities that you think we could be doing some changes to, then that's where I think best bang for the buck is.
And I think this building, the police department, but I do think we have some questions of what do we do with the middle school because we don't have an understanding of what's there.
Do you have any idea when those conversations might start? Like, are they? Like,
No,
are we talking like,
all talking
we're not
about it
gonna
like
know?
it's
Yeah,
definitely-
like, are they not even willing to talk until 2028 or like, what are we looking at?
They're willing to talk now.
Okay.
It's up to us. Start it now, but they are willing to talk. Yeah.
I really think all of you would benefit from having a presentation too, because it is a lot of information that they collect and analyze. And you guys, I think it'd be important for you guys to know what that is.
It feels a little rushed if we.
Just consulting with Dan, he recently had a meeting with representatives of the school district. They're going to have a planning application for property that we jointly own with them on 16 and L Road, because they're looking at that for possibly storing buses. And that's just a administrative application process. But in that conversation, they did bring up the possibility of trading those 10 acres for the building. So I think it's time to start thinking about it. That's not an official offer. That just came. I mean, that was just a meeting conversation. So they're willing to start talking about that at this point. And they have zero plans to utilize that with the school district in the future. So
I'd definitely like to hear more about that.
Any conversation would be good.
But getting back to this. So your recommendation is we get them in here to kind of go over everything that they would provide. And then once we understand what's involved with all the audits and reporting, then we can come back to them and say, we want to building X, Y, and Z. Is that my understanding?
And the data from the audit done on the Civic Center is not usable, or there's an assessment done for this building? Yeah.
Not quite for what we're looking for. It was very.
Very specific.
Yeah.
We need to add one more engineering office, and if we rotated council.
When we added.
It was utilized for the renovations downstairs as well.
I think also part of this conversation that when Mike and I met with these folks is that we want to identify ongoing maintenance responsibilities as well as staffing. We have 2 building maintenance folks that maintain all of our facilities. So to take on another old school, we probably don't have the staffing to do that.
We don't.
School we could combine some stuff in there though, but you're right.
Continue. All right, so your recommendation is we continue the public hearing?
Yeah, so as soon as we're concluded with this discussion, then our budget does require that we open up the public hearing, accept public comment, and then continue the budget review for December 3rd. As far as the facility needs, I think we have enough direction. Maybe we'll keep that out. We could also add in then only use those funds if council approved of it later or reduce the scope, but I think direction we have is
All right, so
no changes currently.
no changes. We'll get the presentation, understand the scope, and from there we can sit back and make a decision on what we may or may not want to include.
Yeah.
Make sure. Any other? Okay.
All right. Then that concludes my budget presentation. This is our staff recommendation to open up for public comment and then continue that public hearing until December 3rd. Thank you.
We need to make a motion to that effect.
After.
Mr. Mayor, you need to,
So just to be clear, I'd like to open it up for public comment
thank you.
on the draft 2025 budget. Okay, hearing no public comment, I'll bring it back to council.
And so now you'd make that motion to continue.
All right, so somebody needs to make a motion.
Motion to continue the public hearing on the 2025 annual budget until December 3rd, 2024.
Second.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Williams, Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Downs. Motion passes 6-0.
All right. So thank you, Shannon. With that, we're going to move into the city manager's report.
All right. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'd just like to say that the last 10 years have serving as a city manager here in Fruita has been the highlight of my career. Extra special working with each of you. You are a dynamic city council that has a desire to understand each other, even if you disagree, puts a priority on civility. You're willing to take calculated risks, and we're seeing lots of great results because of that. I've had the pleasure to work with 20 different council people over 10 years and 3 different mayors here in Fruita. And this has just been an incredible place to live, to raise my family, and to work with all the councils that I've been able to work with a community that is incredibly positive and supportive and proud of where they live and where they call home. It's been an honor to work with the staff. They're an amazing team, and I will miss tremendously working with them and living and working in this community. I'm excited for the new opportunity, and I'm also incredibly sad for the end of such a wonderful experience and time. This was never a job for me that I was looking to depart because I could see myself doing this for forever if given that opportunity. Maybe not forever, till retirement. But I'm excited for the team that's here. I'm excited for where the community's heading. I'm grateful to have been a part of it, and it's definitely been a team effort, and I've grown and learned, and from everybody that I've worked with, I've appreciated, a very engaged community, and it's definitely a place that attracts you to want to be here. And I think that says a lot, and it's an awesome opportunity to serve in your capacities and work in our capacities here in this community. So just wanted to thank you. Grateful for the first council I worked with to give me a chance to take this role. And thank you for the departing party and gifts. And I'm glad that I'm not moving far away, so I can still come and experience the great things happening in this community and still see all of you. And so I liked how they called the party on Friday a see you later party, because it's not a goodbye. So thank you very, very much. And that's the only update I have tonight.
Who wants to follow that? Council reports and actions.
I have nothing.
I have an update for Convening from the Fruita Arts and Culture Board, which is the date actually was voted on to move 1 week prior, so we don't conflict with spring break. And so March 7th is going to be the new Convening date.
It's a Friday.
It's a Friday. Yep. So.
And we'll get the invites. Awesome.
Yes. Yep.
Anything else?
That'll do.
Amy?
I think the only thing that I had to report was I had the pleasure of hearing Mike present at our associate members of growth and development. And they are not going to go easy on him, but they're very excited. They're very excited to have him. And he did a really great job of handling their initial onslaught. Yeah, I think that's it.
Aaron?
No updates from me.
James?
The only thing that I've noticed is that at the dog park, the door latch is busted. And it's been busted for a few weeks, and I figured somebody probably figured it out, but it's still messed up. So if we can get somebody to check that out in a large part. Yeah. When they're bringing those chips, they could do that. That'd be cool. No, then that's it. Mike, are you gonna have a window anywhere in your office, like facing the road, where we get to walk by and go neener neener or anything?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Nah, we're gonna miss
I
you.
hope there's a
though.
window.
Got the second floor. We love
Yeah.
that.
You haven't seen my neener neeners. I can.
Anything else, James?
Nope.
I have a little bit of a list. I was curious about where things stood, if I'm remembering correctly, that we're going to have our own kind of little road study for Fruita, because not all the way we use to make decisions like that's on a more universal level doesn't necessarily apply here. So I'm just curious time frame what that looks like. And am I remembering correctly?
Dan was just telling me, the scope is likely the first quarter of next year of 2025.
So much. And then you all remember when we talked about, and I cannot remember the right wording for this, but the little neighborhood like party bus that can be going around. And when we first talked about it, we all loved the idea, but we weren't sure where localism was going to land. So we held off on anything more about that. But since localism's board is not going to exist, I want to sort of revisit this idea and where we might want to.
I brought it up this time last year. It was
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah. And it has been now brought up out in the community again, because they saw it in Junction recently and they're like, oh, wait, does Fruita have one of these? So I just wanted to bring that up to put it maybe on our mind. Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Yep. And should we start thinking about our February concert, or are we starting to think about that? And if so, let's hear about it.
Just got a call about it today,
Okay.
asking to look at it.
Okay. I have some suggestions if you need help with bands. If you don't need help with bands, then that's fine.
Yeah, no, send them over.
And then I got to go to the Fruita Youth and Action Council meeting and it was so fun. It was great. They are super efficient. I think we had an hour and a half scheduled for the meeting and we were done in 30 minutes. It was incredible. I love actually meetings, so I was sad to leave that soon, but they're just doing great things. They're doing bingo over at, they just decided to start doing bingo. They did it once and it went well at the Independence Village. So they're going to be doing that once a month with the residents over there. And they help, they're kind of an extension of the rec center in a lot of ways. And so they're helping with the Cookies and Claws event that's on December 14th. I don't know if I can't remember the date now because I'm not sure it is December. But in December, they're doing that. They're doing a food drive, a canned food drive. They have 3 boxes full already. They're delivering that the end of this week, and just some really cool, great things like that. And they do like Thursday thoughtfulness thoughts to the school. Like they each are taking their own Thursday and coming up with a nice positive saying and then putting it out to the school and things like that. So I'm excited to continue to see what else they're up to and be helpful in any way that we can be.
Right.
That's it.
Did you get a note about the Fruita neighborhood party bus discussion? Cool. So we'll get that. I really don't have much. Tomorrow is the chamber retreat. We'll be at Our Lady for a good chunk of the day. So looking forward to that, kind of looking, their goal is to really kind of, I think, to develop a 3 to 5 year strategic plan moving forward. So that's it for me. Do we need to take a 5-minute bite?
I'm sorry. Don't forget the Small Business Saturday and then also the holiday lighting event, because we won't be together again before that happens. So that happens November 30th.
Fun. Okay. All right, with that, before we head into executive, we're going to do a 5-minute recess. Oh, sorry, Mike.
Just a heads up, Mary Elizabeth, and she'll help with the language, but would like to add a 3rd executive session. It will not take very long, but it'll be in between the 2 that we are having.
Number 2 is going to number 1. We're adding a 1.5 and then 1 goes to 2.
Yeah, but it was the reason why I stepped out and some timely information that we wanted to share. So she'll help with the language. I just didn't want to catch you off guard. So when we come back in, we can add that in and she'll help. So.
Okay.
You're on camera. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. So with that, we'll do a 5-minute recess and then we'll leave open meeting and then head into executive. So the time is now 9:06. Please be back at 9:11.
Oh, did you?
So, I want to make sure I get this right, and I'm sure Mary Elizabeth will correct me. But with the new process, we've got 3 executive sessions. We can read the move to convene an executive session with who's in each one, all up front. And then before we go into each session, we'll read the announcement to be made. Is that correct? All right, so.
Actually, sorry, I didn't get to my unmute. So, these are 3 different sessions with different people moving in and out of them. So, you're going to have to do 3 different motions, go into one, come out, do the next motion, go into it, come out, do the next motion, go in, come out.
Oh, so we can't read them all up front. Okay.
No.
All right. So then we need a motion. So, and I've got the language on this piece of paper. We're going to do the second executive session first. I've got it on a piece of paper if it makes it easier. Okay. So we need a motion.
I move to convene an executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024B for the purpose of receiving legal advice from the city attorney and special counsel for the city and pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024E to develop strategy for negotiations and informing negotiators with regard to the public-private partnership between the city and Two Forks Ventures for the launch property.
Second.
First is second. Any other questions? All right.
Now say who you're inviting into that.
Okay, we don't have to, we don't have to approve it.
I'm sorry, you're right. Vote first. Thank you.
Oh, man.
Counselor Williams?
Would you kindly poll council?
Sure. Counselor Williams,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Downs, and Counselor Miller.
Yeah.
Motion passes 6-0.
It's enthusiastic. Okay, it is, I gotta get my cheat sheet ready. It is November 19th, 2024, and the time is 9:15. For the record, I am the Mayor, Matthew Bremen, as required by the Open Meetings Law, and this executive session is being electronically recorded. In addition to myself, the following
Sorry. You, after the motion to approve, then you invite everybody in and then we're in executive session.
And Mary Elizabeth, when are we adding the 3rd executive session while we're in open session?
Well, I guess I was anticipating, since we got people moving in and out of executive session, unless everybody who's sitting in the audience is going to sit through all of them. Really, this gets like really tricky, but technically should make them motions each separately. At least for this first one, since I know, Dalton's leaving. Otherwise, people who aren't going to be in the executive session need to leave the room if you're going to be holding the executive session in chambers.
So,
Bye.
Does that make sense? I can't see
Does.
who all is there.
Right.
So
So Deb is leaving and CR, are you? Your CR is working on leaving as well. And I don't know who's in the back of the room.
That's Amanda. Thank you for being here, Amanda.
because for this first executive session, Dalton will be in. And Dan, I don't know if is Steve there or no.
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 Oh, okay. Okay.
Then
So
do I need to go to executive session link that I received later on this afternoon?
yes, you do. Yes. Yep. Thanks, Aaron. So I think right now we haven't gone into executive session yet because we're all still on the open session link.
Okay, so you guys have to leave this Zoom and come back?
That's right. But first, I think we need to straighten out how we're going to do the motions. So since Steve isn't there, I was just thinking if there were people that had to move around, it was awkward to do them all at once. But since Dan is going to be in all of them, and it's just Dalton who will be leaving after the first one. You've already moved and gone into the first, to go into the first one. Go ahead and say who you're inviting into that. And then we can go ahead, since Deb just left, do the second motion, which I'll give you the language for, and then the third one, and then we can go into executive
Right.
session for all three.
Right, but do we have to change our Zoom links?
So for all three executive sessions, Mary Elizabeth and Aaron will be in, and there's only one link for all three because we'll
That's
break
right.
it up in the video. Yeah.
But are they still in the open meeting Zoom?
Right now. They're gonna
Currently, we're in the open meeting Zoom.
invite first, then.
Okay.
So this is perfect because you've still got to do some other motions.
All right, so now I read it's the November 19th piece.
Not yet, because we're not in executive session yet. So for
All
the
right.
first, for the first motion, which you guys just passed, who's coming into that first executive session?
So it's going to be special counsel.
Dalton Kelly. Mhm.
Right, Mike, Dan, and Shannon,
And
That's it.
council. Yeah. Okay.
and you, of course.
Okay. Now somebody needs to make a motion for the second executive session, this new one. So I'm gonna give you that language and you can do a so moved.
We already have two. You mean the third?
So,
Okay.
But this next one, we don't have any language.
right, so you're going to give us that language?
I'm gonna give you that language and then somebody can just say so moved.
Give it to us.
I will give it to you. So.
Kindly.
No, not
Very
kindly at this
nicely,
point.
kindly, I will kindly. So I move to go into executive session pursuant to CRS 246402-4B for the purpose of receiving legal advice from the city attorney with regard to Mesa County District Court case number 24 CV 62.
So moved.
Second.
Right. So we have a
Okay,
first and a
call for the vote. I think Deb
All
left.
right, so,
Shannon, would you kindly poll council?
yeah, I guess Shannon, that's you.
You're in the hot seat, bud.
Counselor Miller,
Yes.
Counselor Downs,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish,
Yes.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Williams.
Scott, you're-
I believe that was a
Right.
yes. Motion passes 6-0.
So, and then for that one, it's going to be Mary Elizabeth, council, mayor, Shannon, Mike, and Dan.
Correct.
Okay. So now we've done that. So now we can read the third one, which is actually the first.
Correct.
I have it here if somebody wants to read it.
Move to convene an executive session pursuant to CSR section 24-6-4024B for the purpose of receiving legal advice from the city attorney and pursuant to CRS 24-6-4024E to develop strategy for negotiations and informing negotiators regarding the 19 road project.
Second.
Shannon, will you poll council, please?
I was pointing at him.
Counselor Williams,
Mm-hmm.
Counselor Purser,
Yes.
Counselor Miller,
Sure.
Counselor Hansi,
Yes.
Counselor Downs,
Yes.
Counselor Parrish.
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0, Mr. Mayor.
Kind of felt like 5.5. All right, in this meeting will be our city attorney, city manager, my assistant city manager, planning and development director in that meeting. And city council and mayor. All right,
Okay, great. So now we will need to switch over, Mike. I don't know what you guys need to do from your end to the other executive excuse me, executive session Zoom link.
Yes. Ciara is doing it.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Sierra.
Then she will.